Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Broncos got into a slugfest against the Raiders. Also, Justin Herbert will try to stay alive against the Steelers, and BYU faces its biggest test yet this weekend.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Denver Broncos played their rival Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday night as heavy favorites, and it was ugly. Locked On Broncos host Cody Rourke reacted to the awkward clash.
Wow, Broncos country, Thursday night football. Typically, we always go into these matchups knowing, hey, short week, you never know what you're going to get. The Broncos coming into this game, they were heavily favored against the Raiders, but it didn't matter because the Broncos came out flat to start this game, and the Raiders, they came out with energy despite the fact that they went to overtime last week that nearly took them all the way to the final seconds of overtime against the Jaguars. And typically, the records don't tend to favor those teams coming off of overtime then going to play a Thursday night game. And the Broncos almost suffered a letdown. One of the stories we've been talking about all season with this team has been the offense, the slow starts, the inconsistencies, the lack of cohesiveness from this unit, penalties. Once again, that almost sunk the Broncos at home on Thursday night in an AFC West divisional game here, but it's the defense that comes up big as the Broncos hold on for a 10-7 victory here. And I would say this, there is this identity problem that we're still trying to figure out with this Broncos team. And look, folks, let's be real. Yes, this is a post-game victory podcast, but we can't ignore the issues that we are seeing right now. And we're going to obviously dive a lot deeper into it as things go about here. But the Broncos offense has some question marks, has some big concerns. And a lot of it is related to Sean Payton. Some of it's related to play calling. Bo Nix is struggling. Bo Nix has had 2 really rough weeks in a row. And folks, I'm not hating on Bo Nix. I want Bo Nix to succeed more than anybody. I like being around Bo. I think Bo has a lot of great traits that are going to make him, I think, a very valuable player. But the Broncos have to do more, and Bo has to do better if this Broncos team is going to go far. If they're going to make a postseason run, it is on Bo, and Bo didn't have his best performance. He looked shaky. He didn't look confident here in Thursday's game. He had a couple of moments, but this is not the standard here for this Broncos offense in what I would deem as their worst offensive performance that we have seen since the Nathaniel Hackett era. And there were even times where the Hackett era offense was better than what we saw on Thursday night football here. And I don't know where the reality of this is. I don't know where the blame is to be placed mostly, because I think you can talk about Bo Nix and the blame that he certainly has from playing the quarterback position, some of his decision-making, and obviously we talk about mechanics. Bo has taken a step back in his mechanics from what we saw as a rookie. And look, he's developing still. He's not a finished product. And I want to be very clear about that. While I'm criticizing Bo Nix right now, I still think Bo can be the franchise quarterback here for this team. But a performance like what we saw on Thursday Night Football, it hasn't and isn't inspiring confidence in the fan base and what they're seeing. And Bo has his share of blame to go with that, as does Sean Payton, as does the personnel around Bo on the offensive side of the ball. This is a young football team. They're still developing here, but let's get into some of the key stories here. The Broncos' third down offense, really it was the end of the game. The Broncos picked up, I think, 2 or 3 big third downs to really just kind of ice the game when the Raiders had no timeouts. They finished 5 of 15 on third down. Before that, it was abysmal. On 7 of their first 11 drives, they had 3 and outs. Think about how crazy that is. 3 plays off the field, and they put the defense in rough position all game long, as did special teams. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But for the Broncos offense, we see them go away consistently from the run. Once again, another game for the second consecutive week in a row where the Broncos go into halftime with more passing attempts than rushing attempts. At one point in the first half, the Broncos had more penalties. I think it was 7 penalties compared to just 3 first downs alone. That right there is not going to win you an AFC championship. That right there could sink you if you start to lose some games and you fall behind inside the AFC West. Now you got a tough matchup coming up against the Chiefs next week. We understand that. But the problem here for this offense is they don't have an identity. They're far too inconsistent. Bo Nix looks like he has lost his confidence. And Sean Payton at times seems like He goes one step forward, two steps back. There is equal blame to be placed on the offensive operation that we are seeing. And we are 10 weeks into the season, Broncos country. This isn't just like, we hope they're going to buck the trend. Right now, this is the trend for them. And I don't think they're bucking it anytime soon unless they go back to keeping things simple. We had a chance to catch up with Broncos offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey in the locker room after the game. And look, yes, it was a short week, not using that as an excuse, but the Broncos have some issues that they got to correct. And Mike McGlinchey is in agreement.
It is. It's a lot. It's because it feels like you're cramming for a test in, two days, right? So, it's a little bit more of, you don't get as many details, you don't get as many reps, you don't get to see all the film that you like to see throughout the week. But there is a nice payoff at the back end of this, which is 3 days, a mini bye or whatever we call it now, to get our heads right and get our body. Obviously, everybody's going to heal up physically. Everybody's a professional, and I don't expect anything less than that. But we played a lot of football in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and it'd be good to get away from it, clear our heads. Sometimes when you're looking at it for so much for so long, you start seeing ghosts a little bit, and we got to clear our heads and make sure we come back with a great game plan against Kansas City to come in next week.
Stay up to date all year on the Denver Broncos by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Broncos on your favorite podcast app. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Chargers are just trying to stay alive. Before we get to that, the extremely old Clippers tried to pick up a road win. The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment, whether it's player props, a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick. It's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The Clippers tried to ward off the Suns.
The Phoenix Suns defeat the Los Angeles Clippers 115-102. Let's talk about it. Jalen Green, with him debuting tonight, was obviously the story of the game. He was downright awesome. And this is where I have to eat a little bit of crow on some of my Jalen Green analysis, because when that trade first happened, the thing I was saying to a lot of people was, I get it, explosive, young player, can still really develop, but there were some real concerns about his efficiency. But you didn't see any of those concerns tonight. And you saw the statistics where when Jalen Green played well, the Houston Rockets won a lot of games. And tonight, 29 points, 50% from the field, 46% from three, and even bigger than that, every shot felt massive. It was a jolt to the veins of Phoenix Suns fans and players alike. But I think the biggest thing that comes from this game that I've been talking about a lot on Locked On Phoenix Suns is when Devin Booker comes off the court, who's your next best shot creator? When Dylan Brooks is healthy, is it him? Like, the separation between your best shot creator and playmaker in Devin Booker to Grayson Allen is the Grand Canyon and a half. You insert Jalen Green to that, I might have some concerns, but those were not true tonight about some efficiency things. He comes in here, regardless about efficiency or not, he is so explosive. His creativity as a shot creator is so missed from this team, as well as the ability to hit the occasional three-point bucket. Jalen Green was so awesome tonight. And you give Devin Booker a backcourt running mate, that's just going to open up a lot of things for him. And the biggest argument you can make for Jalen Green is he was asked to do almost everything scoring the ball with the Houston Rockets. He is not that way here in Phoenix. He's the secondary guy. And so with that being said, Suns get a massive win and kind of steal a win against an injured Clippers team. And the Suns get another big win, and the Clippers go home crying alongside Bradley Beal.
Drake May prepares to rebound in a huge game against the Bucks.
If you go back to, what happened last weekend, James, I think that was Drake's toughest game probably since the Pittsburgh game where he had multiple turnovers. The Atlanta defense kind of got to him a little bit. He made some mistakes. He wasn't seeing the field necessarily great. He made some interesting decisions, leaving the pocket early, missing some open guys. And he said, during Wednesday's meeting with the media that there are a lot of sacks that he has taken. And he said, a lot of them are on me, and he's right. So I think people are interested, James, to see how Drake May responds after maybe his rockiest game in a while.
And the Stars got into a shootout with the Ducks.
Huge turnout in Dallas as the Ducks were down 2-0 going into the second, and then they come away with a 7-5 win. That's 4 games where they have scored 7 goals out of the 13 games they've played. Absolutely killing it in the goals column. Cutter Goche gets another one, leading the league in goals. You had Ian Moore get his first goal finally and first point. We had Olin Zellweger get his first goal of the season. So this team is buzzing. There's a lot of love and fun to have for the Anaheim Ducks right now. Absolutely killing it. 5 in a row. They are on a tear. The Ducks are doing great. They are fun to watch. Tune in to more Ducks games if you haven't yet. Fly together.
Justin Herbert is going to have to keep running for his life this Sunday when he faces off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Locked On Chargers host Daniel Wade and Locked On Steelers host Chris Carter preview one of the weekend's most exciting games.
All right, Chris. Well, I think history has told us that there's a good chance that this is going to be a good matchup, but I do think on both sides of things here, there are going to be certain things, at least for the Chargers, I know, if they don't get it done, they're going to lose. And that's the whole point of this segment. And I think when you're talking about the keys to victory, that's what you're getting into. You kind of already touched on one of the ones I'm going to get into as well in the matchups. But where would you go with the 3 things you think the Steelers have to do to get the big time win on Sunday Night Football?
I think it's kind of what we talked about. They live up to their defensive philosophy. They believe in stuffing the run. That leads to rushing the quarterback. And if they take away the primary reads, rushing the quarterback causes chaos, and that leads to turnovers. So the Steelers, number one, have to stuff the runs so that they can get to creating their turnovers. That is just a huge process of how they operate. One thing that Mike Tomlin acknowledged on Tuesday when we talked to him about the Chargers is he said that, hey, the last time we played these guys, Justin Herbert was hobbled before he even got to the game. And so he acknowledged that, like, his mobility is dangerous, and it's something the Steelers have to monitor. And so that's another thing the Steelers have to get ready for. And granted, Daniel Jones can be a mobile quarterback. You know, they were able to stand with him, but he knows that Justin Herbert's a bit different of a quarterback than Daniel Jones. So I think that's going to be a big part of it is, live up to that defensive philosophy, but be aware of what Justin Herbert is going to want to do to try to cancel you out and have those counters ready to go. And I think that's what's going to get tricky with this game is with the Steelers' recent adjustments. How much do the Chargers buy into, okay, they are going with 2 high safety looks. Let's try these things to open that up. And then if they are able to hit on a couple things, how do the Steelers adjust to that? That's going to be that chess match that I think could be really interesting. So stuff the run, to get to your defensive philosophy. But I think also on offense, I think the Steelers could really use their run game to get back to working, because when the run game's working, it then opens everything else up in the passing game. And if the Chargers are able to stuff the run, it's going to be interesting to see what matchups the Steelers think they can win in the passing game. Aaron Rodgers, has been good at finding guys, but like one thing I asked him about on Wednesday in the Steelers locker room was about the balance of spreading the ball around. And we'll talk more about this for Locked On Steelers listeners. I'll talk more about this with Mike DeFabo on our Friday episode. But he talked about the importance of you just need to hit where the defense isn't. He's like, you find the open man, and him believing that philosophy and not trying to force balls to guys just because he thinks DK Metcalf should get the ball or he thinks Darnell Washington should get the ball or anything like that. That I think is a big part of what the Steelers hope can manifest in this offense. So if they can manifest that in this offense in just hitting the Chargers where they're not, they can do enough damage on offense that if it combines with that turnover formula that they like to create, that can be your ticket to taking control of this game on the road, taking the energy out of the crowd in LA and kind of giving the Steelers a chance to control the pace of this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll start with, the one you just touched on there, which is just the turnover battle. And for the Chargers, I think in certain games, it's more important than others, right? Like last week against the Titans, they could afford, to have a pick, even a pick 6 like they had in that game. and they still were able to win and win comfortably with, the Titans really never having a chance in the fourth quarter. This isn't one of those games, right? And every game, it has a different level of importance. It's always important, but this game, I think it's absolutely pivotal. And I think why it's so important in this game is because of the matchup they have with the Steelers, who have been incredibly good, to your point, taking the football away. They rank second in the NFL. You said it. They're averaging 2 a game, 16 in 18 games. Obviously, when you have 6 in 1 week, like you had last week, right? That's going to boost those numbers a little bit, and it shows you exactly, even if you're, the hottest team in football, like the Colts are, you can't survive that. For the Chargers, there's way less margin for error than the Colts have, right? So to win the turnover battle in this game is a must for them to have a chance. It doesn't even guarantee them a win necessarily. And I think the one thing we didn't touch on yet is to be careful of the tip balls, right? 6 times this year, Justin Herbert has had a tipped or batted ball intercepted. That's terrible luck. I mean, I think, Patrick Mahomes has like 12 and like none of them have been intercepted. Either way, you're going up against a team. Cam Hayward has 5 of those by himself. Go back to the last game and watch it. He had 2 of them in the first half that turned into big plays or turnovers for the Steelers. So the Chargers have to be aware of that. And the Chargers also have given the ball away 12 times, which is 10th worst in the league so far this year. It's been since week 1 that the Chargers haven't given the football away. If there was ever a week to get back on track in that regard, it's this week. And if not, it might cost them the game. My second thing here, special teams has to show up. You go back to look at the Steelers game last week. They didn't end up scoring on it, but one of the things that kind of felt like it shifted that game was the muffed punt that the Colts had in it. Steelers end up taking over. The Chargers can't afford that. Last week, you give a 63-yard punt return touchdown to the Titans. You get down 14-7 in a game you had no business being 14-7 down in. And for the Chargers, statistically, they've been the worst special teams unit in football. 32nd in coverage and punts, 32nd on kickoff coverage. It doesn't get worse than that. Like, to be the worst special teams in the league and have the best kicker statistically in NFL history is almost impressive if it wasn't so frustrating. The Steelers had a big return to open things up last week. It has to be good. With what the Chargers are dealing with offensively, they cannot afford for their special teams not to be good. They're just not, it's not a way that they can afford to win. And of course, I touched on it a little bit earlier. Keep Justin Herbert alive. Like, if Justin Herbert is in this game, you have a chance. When you don't have a chance is last year when the Chargers offense was already not looking great. But as soon as he left, so did every chance of the Chargers winning that game. I mean, Trey Lance has no chance to get this done. This isn't a roster that can win with the backup quarterback. Justin Herbert has to play. Justin Herbert has to be special. And last year, going into it, Justin Herbert was banged up, but Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt both at least started that game. They also both left the game with injuries in that one, so you lost Justin Herbert and Slater and Joe Alt, and you don't even have part of the game with those 2 guys out there for this one, which is very concerning. But Justin Herbert has to make it through this game healthy. The Chargers have to win or at least be even in the turnover battle to have a chance. And their special teams, which has been anything but special, has to show up because the rest of the team just isn't good enough, Christopher, to be able to overcome it and overcompensate for it, especially against the Steelers team, which I think is good, and they're going to need to have their A game to get it done.
Stay up to date all year on the Los Angeles Chargers and Pittsburgh Steelers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Chargers, and Locked On Steelers on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Coming up, despite being undefeated, BYU is in a bit of a tough spot. The undefeated BYU Cougars roll into this weekend as double-digit underdogs against Texas Tech. Locked On Big 12 host Drake Tull helped preview this matchup on Fire TV's college football kickoff show.
Yet another Big 12 matchup gets to be our game of the week. Jacob C. Hatch of Locked On Cougars. He is the expert on all things BYU. Hatch on the road. But the Cougars are 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games as an underdog. I don't think this Cougs team is faced.
No, they absolutely relish the opportunity to be the underdog. They've done it most of the season, most of last season as well, Drake. I don't know what it's going to take for them to finally be a favorite, but they absolutely relish the underdog role.
Now, here's the problem, Hatch. I'll represent the Texas Tech side here to play a bit of devil's advocate. Their EPA numbers defensively, efficiency numbers defensively, are elite. Number 6 in the country against the pass. Number 5 in the country against the rush. Number 2 in available yards percentage. They are holding teams defensively absolutely down from non-conference into conference. And the only hiccup was a game where Texas Tech didn't have starting quarterback Baron Morton. That loss to Arizona State in part was because the offense couldn't get moving and the defense was on the field just too long. Now that Morton is healthy, with the Texas Tech run game that's being more and more established as the weeks go by, and a defense that may be the best in the country and is the best in the Big 12, can BYU put up with names like David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez?
Well, they're going to have to, because I think this is far and away the best defense, the best team overall that BYU's faced to date this season. And the biggest point is you make a very good point about the David Baileys and the Jacob Rodriguez's. They are very good about punching that football out. BYU's ball security is of paramount importance this week.
No doubt. This is a Texas Tech team that is clicking on all cylinders, but BYU is undefeated. Is there a chip on the shoulder of the boys in blue this weekend, considering they're undefeated but not ranked in the top 5?
Absolutely. I think that they are excited for the opportunity to go down and have College game day there in Lubbock, play a top 10 matchup. In fact, the first ever top 10 matchup BYU's ever played in as a college football program. Speaking of them being top 10, opponent being a top 10 team. They understand what they're up against, but they also do not like the fact that they are decided underdogs and they're willing to go out there and show what they're capable of. Because as you mentioned, they're undefeated and they have won games in multiple ways this fall.
If you smell what I'm stepping in here, does the loser of this game really lose?
Not really, because I don't think they dropped very far, because in all honesty, they dropped maybe 1 to 2 spots. This is actually a very good position for the Big 12 to have these two programs in, because whoever wins moves up a handful of spots. The other one drops down a couple, but both are very much still in the mix for the college football playoff race.
I asked you on Locked On Big 12 earlier this week. Tell me now, do you have a score prediction?
I'm getting closer to it. I'm telling you, this game, I am absolutely going back and forth on so many different parameters. But I do think BYU is capable of covering the spread.
That is Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars. He is the expert on all things BYU. Jake, thanks so much.
And finally, the Dallas Cowboys are grieving. Marshawn Nealon died Thursday morning at just 24 years old. The team had paused to take care of its people, counseling offered across the building during the bye, statements of shock and love from Dallas to Western Michigan. Just days ago, he was scooping a blocked punt for a touchdown. Now, today, the stories are about his work, his smile, and how quickly a locker room can feel a hole it can't game plan around. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Cowboys and Nealon's friends and family. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, do the Bucs find a way against the Pats and pull off another shocking win? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.